So for the next step, we're going to create a map showing environmental resources and hazards. So we'll go back to our map here, and we will go ahead and turn off these layers. You can keep the layers on the map. You don't have to delete them, or you could delete them. It really doesn't matter because they're easy to add and subtract. But in order to add the new layers, we're going to come in up here. There's different environmental indicators. So we'll add habitat areas and the marine protected areas. And again, we may not use all these layers, but we're going to check them out and see see how they interrelate. If there's anything, we got wetlands I added. There's an eco-regional portfolio. You know, there's so many different. Really, there are so many different layers that I'm going to add parks and open space, conservation easements. I'm also going to add some resilience ones like sea level rise. I'll add over here. I'll do a maybe 3 foot and a 6 foot sea level rise. And again, it's easy to go back and forth to the layer manager to add and subtract things. So we'll just start to take a look and see what we have. Conservation easements. See if we have any conservation easements. I don't see any there. So we'll go ahead and we'll delete that. Sometimes it takes a little bit to load. But I don't see any there. So we'll go ahead and delete that layer. Remove that layer. We have habitat areas. Let's go ahead and see if we have any habitat areas. Yeah, we do have some habitat areas there along these lakes. Marine protected areas. This is the intercoastal over here. And sometimes we got to think about our symbology to make sure maybe we should change the color of this symbology to make it a different color than the other one. So let's see if that makes a difference. And I don't see anything. Maybe we can zoom out. Okay, so you can see there's marine protected areas out in here. I bet if I turn that off, it's going to go away. Yep. So, and this is the habitat areas way out here. If I turn that one off, that one would go away. But there is some habitat areas there. So I'm going to keep those. And again, we can, if we want to see what the different colors means, all you do is you click on the layer and there's different classes. And then this tells you the different class scores. I think it's the number of acres that they're using in order to show the different colors. Okay, so I'll just go back. This one's really not all that useful to my area over here because it's just showing these lakes, which are the freshwater drinking lakes for the city of West Palm Beach. But I'm going to go ahead and remove that layer because I don't think it really adds a lot. The marine protected areas didn't really help me. It's further north. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that layer. Parks, which I clicked on by mistake. This is a useful one. So let's go ahead and check out our symbology. These are local parks. I don't really like my parks being in brown or tan, so I'm going to edit my local parks to be in green. Let's look at different shades of green. And that one looks pretty decent. So we'll go ahead. And I don't really care if it's a local, regional, or county park. I just want all parks in green. So I'm just going to put them all in the same color. Doesn't matter if they're national, local, state, regional, county. I just want to show the parks. So I'm going to head and save that. And wetlands. Let's go ahead and take a look at the wetlands. All right, this is kind of an interesting one. It shows me the rivers, the lakes, the marine and estuary, deep water. So that's a nice one. I'm going to keep that one. And sea level rise. I am going to put in here. We can see here where the sea level rise is at 3 feet. And now this shows me the different levels of sea level rise within 3 feet, going up to 3 feet. And I want to turn all of these into the same color because I'm going to show you in a second. It's going to make sense to you in a minute. So I'm going to turn a 3 foot. I'm going to do 3 foot as kind of as one level, and then 6 foot as another. So this is the color I'm going to do for 3 feet. And make them all the same. This is kind of I think a flaw within the system, that it takes a 3 foot sea level rise and it breaks it down into different types of levels within that, which doesn't really make a lot of sense intuitively to me. So when I use a sea level rise, I put it all at the same one. And then now I'm going to turn on the 5 foot sea level rise. And I am going to make this all a darker color. And so I'm going to edit the symbology, and I'm going to make this a darker color. And you'll understand why I'm doing this in a minute once you see how it looks once it's all done. So with Urban Footprint, you have to play around. You know, you're not going to... It takes a little while, but it's an easy program to learn how to play around with. So, you know, you can't really make a bad mistake in Urban Footprint. It's very easy to undo things. It's very easy to, you know, put things back to the way they were, and or even create a new map. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then I'm going to turn off the wetlands map here for a minute. And we're just going to look at the 1 foot and 3 foot sea level rise. Now, remember, just like other GIS programs, the order of the layers is important. So I'm going to put 5 foot on top and see what happens. So it makes it very dark, and it basically hides the 3 foot sea level rise. Because think about it, when the sea comes up to 5 feet, right, it's going to inundate everything that's 3 foot, and you won't see the 3 foot anymore if it was 5 foot of sea level rise. So I'm going to go back to the way it was. It correctly put the 3 foot up top, and now you can see here. And so I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sea level rise map just by itself to show the context of my site. So I'm going to close this. And so, you know, my site is not in a sea level rise area. But you know what? It could be in a storm surge area. So I'm going to go back to Layer Manager and just going to check that and see if I want to add that. So I'll go back to Risk and Resilience. I noticed they had a Category 5 storm map for a hurricane. So I'm going to close that. I got my Category 5 storm surge map that just came in, and we're going to go ahead and see the so yeah, there is, my site is not impacted by a Category 5 storm surge, so that's good news. It's on high ground. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer. Now if that layer, if that showed me that there was a Category 5 storm surge, I might make a separate map just for that. You know, a sea level rise map, a storm surge map. But in this case, I don't have that issue, right? So I'm going to remove that layer. And I'm going to just, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this. And we're going to in this case, I'm going to, I think that the legend is kind of confusing because of those different categories that don't really make sense. So I'm just going to eliminate the legend over here. And I'm going to call this the Downtown West Palm Beach 3-foot and 6-foot Downtown West Palm Beach sea level rise 3 feet and 6 feet. Now, the one thing that I don't like as much about Urban Footprint compared to maybe some other GIS programs is, and I actually think you can do it, but it's not as easy. Like, so if I wanted to just kind of collapse all of these down and just show that darker blue, it's a little bit more complicated. I think I can probably go into the layer and collapse them, but that gets into a little bit more complications that I want to get into at the moment with you. So in this case, I'm just not going to have the legend. And you know, you kind of see the, you know, the light blue, you know, and you could even, if you wanted to, explain that in here, 3 feet. We could maybe do something like do 3 feet, light blue, and 6 feet, dark blue. Okay, and so I don't really like how this title here spills over into the second line, and I don't think, yeah, they don't really give me the ability to edit it as much as I would like, so I have to kind of figure out, I'll just get rid of the downtown in this case, and we'll kind of leave it like that. So, you know, there's pros and cons to every program, and this is one of the cons, is it's a little bit harder to edit, but still you can figure out creative ways to make it work, and we'll go ahead and export that. And then now we'll go back, we'll turn off the sea level rise, and we'll turn back on the wetlands and the parks, and we'll go ahead and we'll create a map. Still exporting the other map, so you have to wait a little bit, but we'll create a, you know, kind of a parks and wetlands map. So in this case, I think having the legend helps and makes sense. I don't need the legend for the base canvas. That's not that important to me. Having the project area shown is, I like to show where the project area is in terms of context, so I'll leave that on. And so you can kind of get a sense here. And you know, I'm going to go back. I'm going to close this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And now when I zoom out, it's hard to see my site. So what I may do here is go into my base canvas and create a buffer so that I'll be able to see it. And we did this before, but I want to show this to you again. So I'm going to go ahead here and do a filter. And I'm going to create a buffer of 1/2 of a mile, 0.5 of a mile. And we'll go ahead and save that. And we'll call this buffered, we'll call this 1/2 mile buffer from site. Click OK. We'll turn this on. And now you can see that 1/2 mile buffer there. I'm going to bump up the line so it becomes a little bit darker. That's a little bit too thick. So go ahead and save that. So now I'm going to have that there. So now you kind of see the area. And I'm going to zoom over this way. And now I'm going to zoom out actually a little bit more so you can really begin to see, you know, the environmental map. And now I'm going to go ahead and create my, we'll call this West Palm Beach Again, sometimes when you're using Urban Footprint, there could be a little bit of a delay in things, and so you just got to be patient. So we'll call this West Palm Beach Parks and Wetlands Map. So I don't need to put map because that's pretty self-explanatory. And we'll go ahead and export that. Although you can see here that the legend is impacting that area, so it's overlapping. I'm going to get rid of this half-mile buffer from the site. I don't need that on my legend. And fortunately, that helps me out. Project area, that's fine. I like that. So I'm going to export that. And that's going to be my parks and wetlands map. So I would like for you to do that as well for your site.